Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we have a vintage Japanese-made Sports Series lighter that I believe is a good example of the kind of lighter that many collectors pass on when it comes to accumulating a group of old petrol lighters. I would make a case that they are well worth considering adding to your collection. This is a KRON Imperial flip-top petrol lighter made in Japan. This is what a lot of people like to call a Zippo knockoff. And if you want to do that, I'm not going to get too up in arms about it. Most of these Japanese lighters were exactly that. Knockoffs of other lighters that came before them, and a lot of those were Zippos. They copied just about every other lighter mechanism that you can imagine as well. That may be a little bit of a stretch, but you do see that during that period of the Allied occupation of Japan, there didn't appear to have been any attention paid to patent infringement or anything like that. The graphic on this lighter is very bright in color. At least a couple, maybe about 3 hues of green plus black, red, tan. So about 6 colors. And then just green on the back. The paint is not perfect. It does show scratches, scuffs, some of it missing here and there, especially around the edges. And this is not the same sort of painted graphic as you see on a lot of Zippo lighters. Certainly not the same as the Sports Series that Zippo put out, the paint and etch type. This would be more akin to some of the printed versions that have come out in later years. I think this was somewhere in between. I think this is a painted graphic, but it's just painted on the surface. Probably identical to the same process used for all those old cigarette brand advertising lighters on these flip-top style Zippo knockoff lighters. And a lot of times you'll see those where it's cracking. And I don't know if it's the conditions they've been kept in or how much they've been used. But definitely times where you'll find one that appears to have held up better over time than others. This lighter could be new. I mopped up that whole windscreen area. Came up with a little bit of what could have been soot. But there was also some Flint well, I may be thinking of another lighter, one of these others back there that I was working on earlier. I thought there was Flint on this wheel, maybe not, so maybe that's not where what I thought might have been soot came from. Could have just been some dust, or it could have been that this lighter was just very lightly used. The insert is in pretty good condition, although that thin felt pad, which you find in a lot of these Japanese made advertise or flip top lighters has sort of shrunk up and hardened. It does have, or I should say it did have, when I first cleaned this lighter and started analyzing what kind of shape it was in, I removed the Flint spring screw and this small flint dropped out of it, so I just put it back in it. And I used the aid of a pair of needle nose pliers to do it because it was so small, so I may have to do that again. A hold of this, and then drop it back down the tube. And now, very important, especially with one that's cutting at an angle like that, is you want to test it. Get the flint grooved in the proper direction before you tighten it up at all. And then you can see, once we do that, the slider will be sparking very well. And we can fuel that up and light it. But because I am going to, or possibly going to be using this video, depending on what we end up doing with this lighter, this could be embedded in the YouTube, or I'm sorry, not YouTube listing, the YouTube video could be embedded into the eBay listing. So I'm going to drop this little tiny flint out of there and find a new one to put in so that its new owner will have a new flint to use in it. Alright, so now with this longer flint we should be able just to drop this in here by hand. Now, flint spring and screw. Same thing, you always want to get your flint grooved in the proper direction before you tighten that down at all. Make sure that everything is operating smoothly and not binding up. And you can tighten up your flint spring screw, which, as they sometimes have a tendency to bind up there, you may need a screwdriver, but we're able to use our thumbnail, our dropper bottle of Ronsonol, and put about 6 or 7 droppers in. See how that goes? Alright, there's 7. And it looks like it may be a little bit damp on my finger there, so may have just slightly overfilled it. So a really nice, attractive lighter. Probably from the 50s or 60s. Some imperfections. Branded KRON Imperial, Japan. Saw the mechanism insert. Nice graphic, which is just solid on the back. It says Golf on the front with the multicolor, at least 6 color scene on the bottom. Really cool lighter. Freshly fueled with a very large flame. Perfect for you to light a cigar, cigarette, joint. You could even light a bowl off of that one. Until next time.